Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening hymn, or our gathering hymn, Morning Has Broken, number 38. Great hymn. Welcome one and all to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Hillsborough, where we constantly strive to be an open and welcoming congregation to all who seek community and support. We don't worship in one specific way each week, and we don't require that we all adhere to one specific creed or common belief. Rather, we are a covenant community, committed to loving and supporting each other in our individual lifelong search for truth and meaning in matters of our personal faith. So, whoever you are, member, guest, or friend, whatever reason or purpose guided you here today, whether in person or online, hello, we welcome all of you. My name is Dave Yelton. I'm the worship coordinator for today's service. As a lay-led congregation, there are a lot of contributors, some that you'll see and some behind the scenes, who make our services possible. So we give a big thank you to everyone who helps make this a place inside and out to gather and learn and grow in spirit, love, and community. And now for a special thank you and introduction to our speaker for today, one of our own members, Aurora Tennyson. Aurora's a relatively new member at UUCH last couple of years, but she's really thrown herself into the mix with commitment and energy. She's a career biologist and is currently pursuing her PhD work in plant biology, focusing on how plants adapt to spaceflight and plant-microbe interactions. There are lots of really cool aspects of this field of study, so I'm sure she will share with you more if you just ask her. Originally from Tennessee, she and her husband Robbie and son David moved here in 2009, initially for some employment opportunities, which led then her further to educational pursuit with her PhD program. Aurora also confesses to having way too many hobbies, one of which is reading about and discussing religion, which helps explain why she's here offering the message today. So I can't wait to hear her expound upon prayerful practices for atheists. Before we begin our time of worship, let's take a few moments to share announcements. Of course, first, this is a really good time to remember to turn off your phones or put them in quiet mode. We will enjoy coffee and tea after the service here in the sanctuary in the back. If you are a visitor today, please stay with us after the service and get to know you better in that relaxed atmosphere. A reminder of the OCIM food pantry donation basket that we have in the lobby. We'd had a wonderful time when we had the Secret Pals donation. We raised about 60 pounds of food that particular Sunday. Yay! I would like that to be our monthly goal at least, because we've been a little shy since then. But we have a goal of about 1,000 pounds we'd like to raise this. We always made 1,000 pounds, half a ton of food last year. That's a small congregation. That's a goal we would like to try to meet or break this year. So keep the canned goods and the foods coming as often as you can. Now, are there any more announcements for the good of the community? If so, please come forward to the side mic and share with your information.
The Songbirds, our singing group, is meeting in here at 7 p.m. in the sanctuary. Anybody is welcome. If you're not on the list, just come up and talk to me after the service. I'll get you on the email list and tell you more about what we're singing.
Hi, I am Patty O'Connor, and my paper tag disappeared. So sorry, my real one's missing in action at home. But anyway, I'm Patty. Two announcements. Number one is I'm listening here for today. So if anybody has anything they need to get off their chest, I'm around. Find me, or you can email me if it's not convenient time today. Coffee hour is happening, and there were some snacks today. And there's a sign-up sheet if anybody wants to volunteer to bring snacks on another day. We'll always have coffee and tea, no matter what. But we might have other things if people choose to bring them. Okay? Thanks. Oh, no, one more. Game night coming up, March 16th. 6 to 8. 6 to 8. There's some games here, or you can bring your favorite game, or 2 or 3 or 15. And enjoy a couple hours of games with members and friends. Okay?
Hi everyone, I'm G. Just drop it down now that the wheels are turning on reforming a justice team here at the UC Edge. So if you're interested in that at all, please come and approach me. I'm trying to put some stuff together.
Okay, hi everyone. Let's see here. Allison Mahaley and Pale are going to be here on March 6th, which is Wednesday? They're going to be participating in a webinar from the Humanist Association on practicing compassion in community. Everyone is invited to join that webinar in the library. We are having a committee of the whole meeting on March 10th. That is next week here after services. We're going to affirm a new moderator and your presentation on membership. And Spring Work Day is going to be April 13th, starting at 9 a.m. If you have suggestions and see things around the building that need attention, please let me know and we'll consider adding it to the list or passing it off to Dave Belt to deal with. Thank you.
Going once, going twice? Okay. If there are no more announcements, let's prepare ourselves for our time of worship together. We'll begin with our chalice lighting. I'll read "The Chalice is a Symbol" by Deborah Falk. A chalice lit in our midst is a symbol of our liberal faith. A faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, tolerance, and acceptance. A faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice. A faith that envisions a world flourishing with equality for all her people. A faith that demands the living out of goodness. A faith that requires thoughtfulness. A faith of wholeness. This tiny flame is the symbol of the spark of all that within each of us.
Our opening words today are Invitation by Shel Silverstein. If you are a dreamer, come in. If you are a dreamer, a wisher, a liar, a hoper, a prayer, a magic bean buyer, if you're a pretender, come sit by my fire, for we have some flax golden tales to spin. Come in, come in.
Please rise and body your spirit as we sing our opening hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. And we'll do this in a three-part round as we often do.
We'll sing it in unison first, and then we'll divide it into three parts. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So all together. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leading, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, come, whoever you are, wanderer, welcome, lover of leading, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan, whoever you are, come, come, whoever you are, ours is no caravan, lover of leading, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Thank you. Please be seated. Ours is a welcoming community where we find acceptance and connections, a sharing community where our joys are celebrated, and a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. Each Sunday we take some time to reflect on special happenings that have occurred this week among our members and friends. Some choose to share aloud, while others choose to remain silent. And here we make room for both. For those of you who would like to share aloud, please take a moment before we begin, center yourselves and collect your thoughts so that what you have to share this morning is personal, heartfelt, and brief. So now, please come forward, tell us your name, and share what is in your heart. When you're finished, you may release a stone into the vase on the altar. For those of you joining us online and would like to share your joys and concerns with us, please put it in the chat and tell us if you would like it to be read aloud, and we can drop a stone for you.
First, to silently acknowledge your joys and concerns remaining in your heart, I invite you to come forward to the altar and release a stone into the vase in silence while Adiba plays There Is a Love. After she plays it through one time, we're all invited to join in singing this meditative song. Words are printed in your order of service. We hold all these things within the heart of this community, both spoken and unspoken, by remaining silent for a moment as we consider what has been shared and how we might respond. Now let us close together with an amen and blessed be. Amen. Blessed be. Now let's sing our beloved children to class with our children's blessing, located in the back cover of your gray hymnal.
Our reading today is an excerpt from On Self-Knowledge by Khalil Gibran. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather, I have found a truth. Say not, I have found the path of the soul. Say rather, I have met the soul walking upon my path. For the soul walks upon all paths. The soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. I need to start off with a confession before this sermon. The title of my talk is An Atheist Guide to Prayer, but I'm actually really terrible at praying. As a kid, I tried to get in the habit of evening prayer, but ultimately I gave up, confessing to my dad, it's like everyone else has this imaginary friend to talk to who I can't hear. As an adult atheist, I sometimes feel very conflicted when other people helpfully say they'll pray for me. I mean, I realize that they're trying to be nice, and they're saying that they're going to hold me in their heart, and I always politely thank them. But sometimes the phrase, I'll pray for you, just hits me the wrong way. So you might be wondering why someone with such an ambivalence on the stance of prayer, an ambivalent stance on prayer is standing before you, prepared to give a talk about the subject. Well, the short answer is that I found that something that's not quite prayer, let's call them contemplative practices, have a profoundly positive effect on my mental health. What started the pursuit of these practices in the first place? Well, I'm going to credit the movie Shadowlands, which I quoted in my last homily, about the life of theologian and author C.S. Lewis. In the film, Lewis states that he doesn't pray because it changes God, but because it changes him. That statement really struck me as a questioning teen trying to figure this whole religion thing out. I wasn't sure at the time if I believed in God or not, but if the end result was trying to change myself and not some mysterious power in the sky, maybe I'd give it a second chance. As I settled into more certainty about my religious beliefs, I found that I still benefited from contemplative practices that promoted gratitude, compassion, reflection, awe, or connectedness. The theme this month is transformation. So I'm going to give this talk about my own journey of finding contemplative practices that have been transformative for me in hopes that someone else here might find them useful. Although I'm an atheist, and I'm speaking from that perspective, I think these practices will be useful for folks who believe in a god, or a goddess, or multiples thereof. Depending on your experience and your brain chemistry, your mileage may vary on how well any given contemplative practice works for you. For example, I have a really hard time with meditative practices that focus on breathing. I always end up hyperventilating instead of relaxing, and that's not really productive. But my background in entomology makes meditating and like watching ants crawl across tree bark and moss very calming for me. And someone who has maybe a less than warm, fuzzy relationship with insects might feel very differently about that practice. However, quite a large body of research shows that contemplative practices at large, both religious prayer and secular meditation, have mild positive impacts on most people's mental health. If you've never thought about a contemplative practice before, maybe you'll learn something that improves your health and outlook. And if you have a practice that's helped you, I suspect that some of my other fellow congregants would like to hear about it after service. We can talk about it during coffee hour. So strap in, and let's contemplate contemplation. I think one of the reasons that I found it so hard to pray as a kid, and in addition to my skepticism, was that the type of prayer that I heard in church was not the type that actually comes naturally to most kids. Most of the prayers I heard in church are what are categorized as prayers of petition, where the person praying is asking a higher power for something that's desired. Sophia Cavalletti, a Catholic religious scholar and educator, found that when young children were not given guidance on how to pray, they were most likely to offer what are called prayers of thanksgiving, spontaneous expressions of gratitude for things that made them happy. In fact, as an adult, practices of gratitude were the first type of contemplative practice I was regularly able to do myself. I first got into the habit after listening to a sermon about gratitude given by the Reverend Brooks Graebner, an Episcopal priest at a church I attended. I don't remember all the details of the sermon, but I do remember him decisively saying, "Grateful people are rarely unhappy." I want to be happy, I thought. I want my family to be happy, I thought. So I marched home and I announced this year for Lent, which, for those not familiar, is a time in the Christian tradition for cultivating better spiritual habits. This Lent, we're going to practice gratitude before dinner each night. My family was less enthusiastic, but they humored me as they do. So now before dinner, we hold hands and take a moment to offer thanks for the food before us and for general things we're thankful for. To an untrained observer, this looks a lot like the religious act of saying grace, but it isn't. I don't address the deity, I just feel grateful and offer gratitude. Sometimes when we have a guest who I think may be uncomfortable with anything that even resembles prayer, I offer a toast and thanks for their presence in the food instead. When I shared I was giving this sermon to Amy Tattersall, she told me about her own version of practicing gratitude that I absolutely love. Instead of just one person giving thanks, like we do in my household, she often asks each person at the table one thing they're grateful for, which gives everyone a chance to participate. Now, I'll admit in my own family, often we're hungry and tired, and the practice becomes somewhat perfunctory. But sometimes, especially after someone returns safe from a long trip, or we gather for a special occasion, or the electricity has come back on after a long, cold day in the winter, then the thanks are very, very genuine. Occasionally, usually when I'm alone, I take a longer moment to contemplate the long chain of beings that connected the food I'm eating to the people that grew it and the living earth itself that provides it. In these moments, the gratitude I feel can be so profound that it is transformative. Not only am I happy, but I want to extend my good fortune to others. Cultivating gratitude helps us cultivate generosity. If you're looking for I should have picked a word I could pronounce better, for a contemplative practice to start doing in your life, I recommend starting with practices of gratitude. Alternately, another good starting point would be practices of compassion. My favorite practice of compassion is a Buddhist meditative practice that's usually translated into English as loving kindness. I first came across descriptions of it in a secular book called Unwinding Anxiety by Justin Brewer. In it, Brewer describes how he was skeptical of adopting the practice at first, but found it helped him reduce road rage and reduce annoyance at coworkers. He also described how it can be a way to break negative ruminations, those cycles of negative thoughts sometimes we have when we're anxious, and reroute one's thought patterns in ways that winds down anxiety. He's not alone in documenting loving kindness's positive effects. A review by Hoffman and colleagues cataloged various psychological studies that found that loving kindness and other compassion meditation techniques were associated with improved positive effect, decreased stress response, and stimulated parts of the brain associated with empathy and emotional processing. For those who are unfamiliar, here's how the practice of loving kindness works. It first focuses on a series of well wishes for oneself, and then extends that awareness to those around us, and then to the world at large. First, start off, may I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May my heart be filled with loving kindness. And then you focus on someone that you really care about, and kind of envision them, and think, may you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May your heart be filled with loving kindness. And then extend your awareness out further to the broader community. May we be safe. May we be happy. May we be healthy. May our hearts be filled with loving kindness. If you try this, feel free to find a series of well wishes that works best for you. There's considerable variation in the wording if you look up ways to do this practice online. But the repetitiveness of the practice is very important for making it effective. Brewer describes whenever he realized he was thinking negatively about himself or others, he worked to interrupt those thoughts of loving kindness to himself. Now, I must admit, when I first started reading this book, it sounded kind of hokey, but in the spirit of empiricism, I gave it a whirl as a way to interrupt some of my negative thoughts that I was having about a project at work. And lo and behold, it worked to reduce my stress. So now I have loving kindness coworkers that I'm feeling angry with to help me calm down. I have loving kindness to family members when I worry about their well-being. And I have loving kindness myself when I've been beating myself up for some stupid mistake that I've made. Even when I practice loving kindness grudgingly, may you be safe, which I sometimes have done, I found that it really does direct negative internal dialogue about myself and others. It's hard to maintain shame or rage while simultaneously wishing someone else health and happiness. By working to become more compassionate, we won't magically fix all our problems, However, practices of compassion can give us a much needed grace to escape from our own mental prisons and humanize those who are at odds with us in ways that make us more open to problem solving. A word of caution, though, based on experience. Despite brewers' claim that loving kindness is good for managing road rage, I recommend moderation when engaging in this practice while driving. I once got so mellow and tranquil, thinking good thoughts about loved ones, that I almost swerved off the road. Loving kindness may be great for improving mental health, but avoid operating heavy machinery under its influence. Otherwise, use it in other practices of compassion to improve your outlook on life. Practices of compassion and practices of gratitude are self-contained contemplative practices that rely on things we already know. Practices of reflection are a way of engaging with external things, usually literature, to help us look at the world and ourselves in new and different ways. Many believers read and reflect on scripture or commentary on sacred literature to expand their understanding of faith and improve their prayer lives. Although I do enjoy reading sacred texts of many faith traditions, I don't have the same relationship with these texts that a believer would have. However, a few years ago, my sister told me about a podcast called Harry Potter and the Sacred Text that proposed a radical new idea. Any text can be treated as sacred, so long as it's meaningful to the reader. One of the authors, or the founders of the podcast, an atheist chaplain named Vanessa Zoltan, originally led a workshop on reading her favorite book, Jane Eyre, as sacred text. She and her co-founder, Kaspar Takul, started the Harry Potter and the Sacred Text podcast as a way to expand those ideas for a broader audience. I haven't listened to the podcast in its entirety, but the first season transformed the way I thought about practices of reflection. In each episode, they focused on reading a different chapter of Harry Potter through the lens of a different theme, such as transformation, generosity, loneliness. Within the focus of that theme, they used various Christian, Jewish, and Buddhist sacred reading techniques to engage the text. For example, the Christian practice of Lectio Divina, the text is re-examined 4 times. First, literally, then reread allegorically, then as it relates to the reader's experience, and then as a call to action. Although the focus of this podcast was the written word, I suspect that some of these practices of reflection could be extended further to include music, dance, or even communication by other beings of the natural world. I'll admit that practices of reflection are very much a work in progress for me. They come a little less organically to me than other contemplative practices and take more time. When I get busy, alas, reflection goes by the wayside. But when I do manage to take the time to engage with literature that I find meaningful, most recently poems by Mary Oliver and Jared Anderson, and the book Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Kimmerer, I find my life enriched for the better. Sometimes these reflections can help me find clarity with a problem that I'm wrestling with, or find joy in unexpected places. If practices of reflection require careful, thoughtful engagement with the world, practices of awe are more spontaneous, almost visceral type of engagement. Practices of awe are something I can only do accidentally, and only rarely, just a handful of occasions in my life. And by practicing awe, I don't mean just finding something really interesting or, oh, that's amazing, which, I feel that all the time. Instead, I experience moments of awe so deep and powerful that it does something to rewire my brain for several hours or days after the fact. I think many believers pursue awe through prayer as a way to deepen their connection with a deity. And even though I don't believe in a deity, I still find joy and peace in these rare incidences of transcendence. I literally have no control over if and when I experience awe, but I can tell you things that have sparked it for me. Twice I felt it in religious settings with low light and moving music. Twice I felt it staring through a microscope, looking at marvelous little worlds in water or leaf litter. Once I felt it looking up at the immensity of the starlit sky. If you wish to pursue practices of awe, I can't guarantee you'll succeed, because I don't even know what makes it happen for me. But participating in religious rituals or observing the complexity of nature are probably good places to start. For me, things that alter my sense of scale also seem to be important. Maybe it will be for you too. Even if you don't find awe in religious ritual, coming together with others can still be an important way to pursue practices of connection. For a long time, right up until I was writing this homily. In fact, I had thought there was no atheist equivalent to prayers of petition. If you don't believe in a deity, then there's no one to beseech for something you desire. But then I realized here at UUCH, we do have a practice that at least partially fills this void. But only when we practice it collectively. When we're filled with grief or worry about things beyond our control, two things help us feel better. One, simply acknowledging those concerns and our feelings. And two, seeking connection and solace from others. Our time of sharing joys and sorrows is one part expressing gratitude and one part seeking connection and worry. I'd like to thank whoever at UUCH in times past advocated for making joys and sorrows part of our services, because having a place where I can confront and release my worries, spoken and unspoken, really means the world to me. And thanks to all of you. Seeing your friendly faces, nodding sympathetically at me when I'm expressing my sorrows, has really helped lessen some of my burdens. We may be a collection of fallible, rough around the edges mortals, but our collective ability for connection in times of grief can transform lives if we let it. I hope I've managed to convey to you today that atheists can have just as rich contemplative lives as believers, and I hope I've given a glimpse into how practices of gratitude, compassion, reflection, awe, and connection can be beneficial no matter your religious beliefs. I'm so incredibly grateful to have found a spiritual home where I can openly discuss these kind of things. And I hope to learn from and be strengthened by the collective wisdom of this congregation. May we all find practices that transform us for the better, and may we use that transformation to create a more peaceful and equitable world. Amen. Let's be.
That was great.
I think very thought-provoking and enriching thoughts for all of us, no matter what our theology today. At this time, each Sunday we take a monetary offering in support of our social justice work in the Northern Orange County communities. This month our plate offering goes to Justice United. So please donate by placing cash or checks in the offering basket, and if by check, please write plate in the memo line. Or if you go on our website, you can click on the donate button, or if you want to use the QR code printing in your order of service. We thank you for your generosity. Please join me in our prayer of collective gratitude found in your order of service. For the love that surrounds us every morning, for the friends beside us, and for the generous gifts just received, let us be truly grateful. Please rise in body or spirit and sing our closing hymn, number 1031 in the Teal hymnal, Filled with Loving Kindness.
Our closing words today are by Leo Szilard. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, there must be peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, there must be peace between neighbors. If there is to be peace between neighbors, there must be peace in the home. If there is to be peace in the home, there must be peace in the heart.
Please join me as we extinguish our sacred UU chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace, my friends, and blessed be you.